The following program is sponsored by The Greek, Ely's Radio Shack dealer at 570 Altman in downtown Ely, and brought to you as a public service by Georgetown Media in Ely, Nevada. Special meeting of the White Pine County Tourism and Recreation Board, January 31st, 2023.
All right, I am unmuting and videoing on.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Marietta.
Hi.
Hello.
Mary, can you guys hear us okay?
I can see Caroline, so I think that's what matters, right?
That is.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the White Pine County Tourism and Recreation Board on January 31st, 2023 at 4 p.m. Let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Kyle, would you lead us, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, it looks like we have all of the board members. Thank you all for coming again. Oh, we have public comment next. Item 3. Is there any public comment from the Zoom meeting? Hearing none, any public comment at the Bristol Cove Convention Center?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I've yet to get any information in regards to Heritage Park, as I requested numerous times. I've yet to receive any information in regards to the concern I have on Broadbent Park and the retaining of the grandstand. That's also going back months, if not years. In reviewing the proposals for a rebranding of the convention center, are the two architects going to make a presentation before you folks choose? In reviewing some of the information, I was quite surprised that a previous board paid $600,000 for rebranding in this facility. I'd like to know what they did for that kind of money. And I'd also like to know what's being proposed now. I worry about you guys spending that kind of money and there's no reflection on business in the downtown community in particular. We're shrinking. People can say what they want. I'm living the nightmare, not the dream, let alone my neighbors, so I want to be clear on that. Madam Chair, I've not received any information in regards to the events. I've not received any information in regards to some of the properties that I gave earlier, whether they're property license, so on and so forth. I've got no information, and when I passed your kiosk across from Sports World, you still haven't shoveled the snow away from there. If you're going to put it up for information, you need to clear it off for regular people. If nothing else, you don't want to consider handicap. They can't get to that kiosk and see what's available. I'm not seeing anything in regards to meeting ADA on the new parking lot. You have a lot of this information or requests for information, yet I'm not getting anything. I'm still concerned about the Nevada Northern Railroad not operating under the Nevada Open Meeting Law. Again, you're giving them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and yet the taxpayer has no idea how it's being spent. I've also asked if any of the board members are on the management board for the railroad, and I want something in writing, either yes or no. To date, I've not received anything in regards to the amount you're paying for Doris Lawler. She's not an employee. I'm not seeing any other employees receive money, or what you're paying for. I don't know. I'd like to know. I've yet to see anything in regards to the request for how many conventions this facility has had in the last 3 years. And you have some other information which I'm not going to go over right now, but I need some answers.
That's 3 minutes.
Just
Thank you,
repetition.
George. Thank you so much.
I need some answers. You know what the open
Any
meeting
other
law
public
says?
comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to the action items. 4A, discussion and for possible action to approve agenda, including removal of agenda items. Do we have any removals? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
I'd like to second that motion, Madam Chairman.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in approval, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, discussion and for possible action, report by I. Bailey for fiscal year 21-22 financial audit and acceptance of report. I'd like to welcome Mary Kane. Thank you so much, our lead auditor from Elko.
Did we skip one?
Carolyn, you can take it out of order, but we skipped one thing.
Oh, we did skip, I was thinking, I thought we already did. Yeah, okay, why don't
One
we go
second,
ahead?
Mary, hold on.
Why don't we go ahead with the audit right now?
Yeah.
Is that cool? Okay.
She's
Yeah,
on
no,
line
that's
waiting.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and we'll do that. Sorry about that, just moving right ahead.
We're
I'm
so
moving
excited
right
to hear the
ahead.
report.
So good to see you, Mary.
Good to see you. It's
Mary.
nice to see you're so excited about it.
Apparently, we'll just go right through the meeting.
Mary, do you need to be made host to do any screen sharing or anything like that?
Well, let me see if it'll let me share my screen here.
I'll go,
You disabled it.
I'll make you the host, and then you can go ahead and take it from there.
Okay,
I need to go.
I'm the
make a
host
copy.
now.
Okay.
Yay.
Oh, you do?
See what trouble I get into.
So, if you wanna get back with material before, you have to request it.
There. Can you see that now? I have your financial statement or the first page up for you.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
It's always nice to have something to look at other than just my face, so. My name is Mary Kane. I'm with I. Bailey. As Caroline mentioned, I'm the lead auditor on this audit, and I'm going to go over some highlights on your financial statements for you before you approve it, and I will also go over, there's a letter that we are required to give the board for audit standards that has everything that we are required for audit standards to make sure we communicate with you. But we'll go over a few things in the financial statements first. And you should, I know we had sent the PDF out ahead of time, so hopefully you've had time to look at it if you have any questions. I say I won't go through every page. Well, I enjoy that. I'm not sure everybody else would, so. We'll start on page 1. This is our independent auditor's report. This is our report on whether or not the financial statements are fairly materially presented fairly. Our opinion is that it is. It's a clean, unmodified opinion, which is what you want. There are many paragraphs in here, most of which goes over our responsibility. The main one, the opinion, is the basis of opinion paragraph you're looking for, and what the rest of it is what our responsibility is, and whether or not we gave an opinion on the other required supplemental information.
Mary, can we pause real quick? I apologize.
Yes.
Does anyone else that did not ask to get a copy beforehand need a copy now? Do you need a copy?
I do.
Okay, so just so everyone's clear, if you want backup material for this meeting prior to coming to the meeting, you need to request it. We're more than happy to send it. Otherwise, we can give you a copy at the meeting. But we don't know unless you tell us that you don't have it.
And
You have
my,
the form?
my impression, Mary, is this isn't for public consumption until the board approves it, correct?
We have to give it as backup.
Okay.
Yeah, in the meeting, but it's not, it can't go to the,
It's a draft right now.
yeah, it's not an official until the board approves it.
Right.
But yes, so, because we know it has to go onto the agenda and as part of the board packet, so.
All right, I think we're good.
Okay. And then we'll go on just a couple of pages to page 4. This is management's discussion and analysis. This is actually put together by the board's management, Jeff and Kyle. Instead of just trying to read the straight numbers in the financial statements, which I know can be a lot, and trying to figure out what they are, this kind of gives you a nice summary of it and puts some of it in context about what's been going on and what's going on in the local area to give you some more information. So this is always a good place to start with the financial statements, to get a brief summary of what's in them, what's changed, what are the important things that's gone on. And then I'm going to skip to page 12. Because we have a special item, we had it last year, this will be the last year you guys have it again. You had 2 PPP loans, one was forgiven last year and the second one was forgiven this year for the $54,000. So that is showing up, and that was the last one, so that's the last year you'll be seeing that on your financial statements. And then, the first part of the financial statements, the notes go to it. The one note I did want to kind of go over with you was note 2, which is on page 23. And I'll bring it up here on the screen. So when we have to look at certain compliance with laws and regulations for possible violation as part of our audit. We did note 1 this year, which is an improvement, because last year there were 2, one for being over budget, and the other one was this one that we have repeated again this year. The NIC requires, the Nevada Administrative Code requires that a capital asset inventory be taken at least every 2 years. And then that has not been done, so that needs to be brought up to date with that capital asset inventory done. Like I said, we've gone from 2 to 1, so that's definitely an improvement with that. And then go to everyone's favorite thing about the financial statements, the findings, which start on page 37.
Have you taken a poll who everybody is?
I just know you're waiting, so excited to hear all that, everyone there.
Right.
We did have 2 findings this year. The first one is the financial statement prep findings. We did have 4 audit adjustments that we noted that had to be made during the process. The first one is that this first one was due to other governments was understated and expenditures were understated. There was an adjustment that had been done to the payroll liability to bring it into balance. The adjustment for $10,775 should have gone against benefits expense instead of due to other governments. So we had to make that adjustment to add that expense in for benefit expenses and bring other governments back up. The next 2 were accounts receivable and room tax were overstated, and accounts payable and due to other governments were misstated. These just had to be fixed. They were in the wrong category between accounts receivable and room tax, and between accounts payable and due to other governments. The 4th one, last year we had an audit adjustment because it was noted that the room tax that was due out to the golf course had not been correctly calculated and this amount was still owed to them. It was paid out to the golf course, but it was posted to expenditures instead of due to other governments where it had been sitting out. There's a liability to bring the liability down. So we had to move that so that would clear out that liability and bring expenses down, because the expense was actually booked into 21. I do want to note that all of these entries that we're seeing are mostly things that would be done at year end. They're not day-to-day processing. That's going just fine. These tend to be things that you do once a year, making sure everything's done at year end and approved correctly. So the day-to-day processing we didn't find any issues with. The second finding was regarding the census data for PERS. We did test the census data we test for PERS always runs a year behind. So we test who was hired in FY21.
What page are you on, Mary? Excuse me.
The back end of
37 is where the findings start,
Okay.
and then 38 has the second finding up.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Thank you.
There were 2 new hires during the year under audit for the census data to PERS. We did test both of them. And the PERS enrollment forms that need to go to PERS have not been completed or provided to PERS. And the reason we test this is because of PERS, we use PERS, audited information is given to us to determine how much of the PERS liability goes to each local government. So it's tested to make sure that they have the correct information so that that liability is correct. Does anybody have any questions on the financial statements, the findings, something they wanted me to look at or talk about in the financial statements?
No, I think you've discussed both of them with us, so we're quite aware with, the staff is and Jeff.
Yeah, okay.
And I think we've made the correction as far as now, not being with HR with the county where that change is.
Cleaning up our PERS, doing it in-house now, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
you know, it wasn't an issue with money, it was an issue with the census that went to PERS.
Yes, because they never got that enrollment form in to tell PERS that, hey, we have this new employee that needs to be included out there.
Yeah.
And we will be paying for their PERS, yes.
Right. And that was the transition in the county when they had a dedicated HR person and that person left and another came on. And, you know, that, in the transition is where we were affected. So we have that corrected.
Yes. And just while we're talking about it, I want to remind you that the state requires a corrective action plan to go to them 60 days from now. So that needs to be prepared and it has to be approved by the board before it goes to the Department of Taxation.
So we can do that at the,
Our this month's board meeting.
Yes, you have 60 days.
February. Okay.
And any other questions?
Do the board members have any questions regarding this?
I don't.
Okay. It doesn't appear so, Mary.
Okay. I am gonna go briefly through the letter. We did send that out to the board members as part of the packet. These are the things that audit standards are required that we communicate to you. Some of it is just what our responsibility was on the first page and what it was gonna be. The second page probably knew that you probably have seen in the past as we are now required to put what we as the auditors have identified as significant risks. When we do an audit, part of it is we have to go through an evaluation to identify where the biggest risk for a misstatement is. There we have 3 on here. These are 3 that you would see them for anybody we would audit. Their general high-level area is pretty much no matter what entity you're doing. Revenue recognition is going to be one for everyone. Anytime you have an estimate, that's going to be significantly more risky because you're dealing with unknown, what's going to happen, you're estimating. So there's nothing here that I would say would be out of the ordinary. At the bottom of that page, as you know, in the financial statements, note 1 contains your significant accounting policies. And like I said, the significant estimate is the net pension liability. Page 3, we did include this year again, there was the significant unusual transaction, that was the PPP loan forgiveness. We are required to mention it again in here because it is an unusual item that you wouldn't see all the time. The next part I'll talk about the corrected and uncorrected misstatements, and that goes into page 4. The corrected misstatements we talked about as part of the findings, so I'm not going to go through those again. But there were some uncorrected misstatements. These were things that we found that weren't right, but didn't rise to the level that we would say it had to be changed in order for the financial statements to be materially correct. But we wanted to make sure you're aware of them, so it's something to keep an eye on, so that they don't become something that becomes a material issue. The first one for accounts receivable being overstated and expenditures understated. I know Kyle, Jeff, and I went through a nice long exercise on whether or not all of the accounts receivable would be collectible or not. And in the end, it was determined that we probably could raise the allowance for doubtful accounts. by about $4,000, but we decided it wasn't, especially being an estimate, and given that it's only 4,000, it wasn't significant enough to make that adjustment this year. But that's probably something you wanna look at with your receivables. As you know, stuff's not gonna be collectible, get it off your books, get it written. The second one for the overpayment of accounts payable and expenditures, this was one when we were going through the accounts payable, we made the one big adjustment that I mentioned earlier. We were still off a little bit, couldn't quite tie out accounts payable, your summary detail to the general ledger by about $2,910. It wasn't a big enough one for us to start spending more time. And, there's a cost benefit to how much time does the auditor spend and charge the client versus giving them time to deal with it.
No doubt.
So that's something you wanna look at, go and make sure that your general ledger and subsidiary ledger for accounts payable match each other. The third one is the OPEB liability. We've had that, excuse me. The OPEB liability, when you've had it for your, you are required to put anything, a liability for, OPEB stands for other post-employment benefits. But when we look at it, it's never been a material amount. It's $4,600. It's not material, so we've always looked at it, we assessed it, Jeff calculates it, and then we post it as a past adjustment. We're gonna pass on posting this and putting it on the financial statements. The fourth one is for the understatement of right to use assets and lease liabilities. This was the new standard that had to be implemented this year, GASB 87 for leases. So once again, Jeff, Kyle, and I went through a nice analysis to figure out which one of the contracts you had would fall under this standard. There were only two that would have, which would have resulted in a right to use asset and a lease liability of $5,930. Once again, for not booking that on there and then doing 2 more pages of disclosure, it wasn't a significant enough amount to warrant forcing that to be on there from an audit perspective. And that's a new thing, new standard this year that had to be implemented. There's some other couple little representations in here. We didn't have any disagreements with management. We did ask them to sign a management rep letter. We didn't have any other ones. The notice about possible non-compliance with NAC is in here too. But those are the things we are required to make sure that we communicate. So if you have any questions about anything that's in that letter, please let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions from the board? So, the second year finding in Mary would be that, as far as the assets, asset inventory.
So yeah, we need to do inventory this year.
Yeah, so, is there a form that is, a generally accepted form on asset inventory?
There is no specific form that's out there. A lot of entities we receive print out their depreciation schedule, send it out by department. Given your size, you could just use the depreciation schedule. And I do believe we maintain that for you, but I do believe we left the copy of it with Jeff and or Kyle. If you don't have it, let me know. I'll make sure you get another copy of it.
Cool.
And you can just go and do your inventory and then sign off that it's done and when it was done.
Okay, so when we just so I'm clear, what information do we want to put on the inventory? Just, yes, that freezer's here still in the building and it's working?
Yeah.
Or, okay,
Yeah, these we still have. These are not here anymore, need to come off. Oops, somehow these didn't get on here,
gotcha, okay.
And then you can do that, mark that depreciation schedule up, and then sign it and date it. I do it once every 2 years. Doing it yearly tends to keep people in compliance.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right, well, that sounds like a good plan.
We can do that.
Yeah, we can get that done. In your spare time. Yeah. All right.
The other thing I wanted to say was, me and my staff loves coming out there. We really enjoy being in Ely. We always have a good time. And I want to thank Kyle, Jeff, Nicole, and girls for all their help when we're out there. They have to spend all this time getting ready for us. Then we show up and we need like every minute of their day to answer a ton of questions and pull this and pull that, on top of them trying to do their regular job. So, and they're always great about it. So, it's a whole lot of hard work on their part too.
Well, thank you.
Same with you and your team, Mary, thank you.
Takes two good teams. Alrighty, any other questions, comments? All right, we'll go ahead and, I'd entertain a report to accept the audit report for Maya Bailey for fiscal year 21-22. Marietta, you're on mute.
No.
Am I on mute now? Okay.
No, there you go.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept this audit report as presented for fiscal year 21-22.
Thank you. Here a second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Mary. And we'll let you go back to work.
Hopefully
Thank you.
relaxing at this point in the day.
Tell your guys thank you.
I will, thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay, we'll go back to new business, number 1, discussion and for possible action, election and approval of board positions for secretary and treasurer.
So, looking up at who had taken this for the last 5 years, they have been board members, but the NRS states that it doesn't have to be board members. The proposal was made to combine both of those positions into a secretary treasurer. And honestly, above and beyond just having that on paper, checking the bills and making sure that the minutes are good, is pretty much those duties. And so I would take volunteers first, or I would love to offer it to one of our new board members, because it looks good having your name on the documents.
Nicole didn't want it, huh?
No, and honestly, I mean, I know what the law says, but for a checks and balances scenario, it makes me feel more comfortable if it's a board member overseeing the work of the employees as opposed to the employees being the oversight of, so it.
Well, I'll be working with you, right?
Mhm.
So let's just do it.
Okay.
Let's just do it. Yay. Not so much, but sure. I'll go with it.
So, Janet, was that a motion?
Yes, that was a motion. Have Sandra be our secretary treasurer.
I'll second that motion. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sandy, very much. Very, very much.
Found you evil eye.
I thought it was a convincing idea.
Didn't have to work on that.
Right. It was my wink.
All right,
I felt the dagger.
we're gonna move to number 5, public comment. Is there any public comment on Zoom? Hearing and seeing none. Any public comment in the room?
Thank you. Madam Chair, several years ago, I asked for an inventory sheet. I thought I was just being put off. Here I see you're being written up for failure to have an inventory sheet. I'd like a copy of the old one, and then when the new one's available, I'd like a copy of that. Also, I see you folks took out a CARES Act loan, $54,000. What did you use that for? There are businesses out there that really need it. This is a healthy facility. You got good income. I want to know what that money was used for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chachis. Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
This has been a Georgetown production. George Chachis reporting.